In today's video, we're going to talk about all of the steps that you need in order to be successful when importing your private label product from China. What I mean by that is that there are certain steps that you have to follow. And if you mix up those steps, if you do it in the wrong order or you do the wrong thing at the wrong time, then you will waste a ton of time, a ton of money, hundreds of dollars actually in the process. And worst of all, it might frustrate you so much that you quit on your private label brand after all. And I want you to succeed with selling your product. I want you to be successful, to be able to quit that job and to be able to do the things that you actually want to do. And one of the biggest mistakes that I see after we've been sourcing more than 1,000 products here is people really doing the wrong order of things. And if you are doing the wrong order and you don't have all of the steps nailed down that you need, then you're in trouble. Okay, so this video is giving you the whole overview about all of the steps that you have to take, because there are so many like little strategies. Should I use Alibaba or 1688, or should I ask this in my contact template, or should I do like this little thing here and how to negotiate? There are so many little things that are completely distracting, and you should stay away from all of that on this platform here. But what's really, really important is steps to follow and the order of things to follow. So basically what we're going to talk about today is your success path to private label import. Okay, so you're going to be able to import and source your products headache-free. Well, maybe not headache-free. There's always a little bit of headache involved when you source in China. But once you know the exact steps, it will make your life so much easier. So let's jump into the computer. Today I'm going to talk about all of that, and I'm going to draw up the exact steps that you need to follow. When I just started out sourcing my products, I made huge mistakes. I did it in the wrong order, and I see people doing these mistakes again and again and again. The problem is that no one really speaks about what we're going to talk about today, because most of the people that are teaching, selling on Amazon or getting a private label brand up, they haven't sourced more than a handful of products. And though they have more experience than someone who didn't source at all, after we sourced 1,000 products here in China, and after I've been living here for 7 years on the ground in China, we've overcome so many kind of roadblocks. With every product that we sourced, we got a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better. After finally we had the exact process nailed down so that it all became easy, right? So sourcing doesn't have to be daunting anymore if you follow the right steps, okay? The very, very first steps that you want to do is you want to contact suppliers, okay? And when you contact suppliers, you want to contact them and get a simple quotation. You want to just get a simple quotation. And I'll explain in a minute what that means, okay? So when you contact suppliers, you should contact at least 40 suppliers. And that's just, you go on Alibaba, you browse through all of the suppliers that are there, and you just look out who would be the one that you could work with, that looks good from the pictures, and you chat with them, right? And when you chat with them, you kind of figure out, okay, who's the one that I have a good gut feeling about. Here, the one key is to go as simple as possible, because what most people do here is they go out and they contact 10 suppliers, but they ask all kinds of questions for these 10 suppliers. Hey, I want to have my logo. What's your minimum order quantity? Can you do custom packaging? Do you have these certifications? And they ask a billion questions. You don't want to do that. In the very, very first step, the only thing that you want to do is you want to kind of see who looks good, like who on the page, where do the pictures look good. You don't need any complicated information, okay? The only thing is you now just chat with them and see what's going on. See how is the gut feeling with them. And then you kind of filter that down. You say, okay, we chatted with 40 suppliers. Well, let's break that down. Some of them didn't answer, right? Some of those suppliers you don't have a good feeling with. Some of them are rude. Some of them you just kick out people already that you don't want to work with without having the prices. And then you ask people and say, the ones that are remaining, you ask them for a simple quotation. Okay, simple quotation just means, hey, what's the price of the product? What's the price at different quantities? So you give them, if you want to order 500 units, you ask for 500 and 1,000 and 3,000 units. What are the prices for those? Okay, that's pretty much it. And what's the lead time? You don't need to know anything else at this stage, because like I say, if now you go in and you ask them a million questions, they're never going to answer all of those questions in one email. So you're going to be constantly going back and forth with these suppliers. Build down these 40 suppliers to like 10 that you're chatting with and that you actually want quotes for. It's a nightmare to deal with all of them for all of those details. You don't want to do that. You want to go back and forth with as few people as possible. So now that we kind of figured that out, okay, so here we have around 40 suppliers that we contact, right? And we get them down to around 10. That's what we do. We get them down to around 10 suppliers that we think we could potentially work with. And from these 10 suppliers, we get a simple quotation, okay? That's all you need. You need to have you need to have 10. Your goal here is to get 10 simple quotes, okay? Simple quotes. Once you have 10 simple quotes, what you want to do with those quotes is look through and kind of filter again. Who falls out already? Whose prices are crazy? Whose lead time is crazy? Who says right up front, well, we can't do the product at these quantities. You know, like who's already out? Because now we come to the step where you want to ask them a few more things, right? You want to say, hey, can you customize the product with my logo? You don't want to go into all of those details. You don't want to go and tell them all of the things that you want to do. What's your logo? What size do you want to have it? Where do you want to print it? If you want to print it, that you want to have custom packaging. We're not there yet, okay? We're just going through the possibilities of kind of if they could actually do what you need to, okay? Once you've done that, you will see that some suppliers fall out again, okay? After you have this simple quote, some will fall out again after you get a more detailed quotation, okay? So in this step here, we filter this down to 5 suppliers, okay? You want to filter this down to 5 suppliers where you get a detailed quote from, okay? And then what you want to do with these 5 suppliers is you want to get 5 samples. And these samples here have to be simple samples. And this is the exact process that we go through every time, okay? So until now, let's recap real quick. Just for the quotes, we contact 40 suppliers, okay? Out of those 40 suppliers, you chat with them, you just get a little bit of an impression who's the one that you could work with. Then you get 10 quotes from 10 suppliers that are simple, okay, very simple quotes. No crazy details, none of the things none all of those questions that you have burning inside of you that you want to get rid of. You're never going to get all of those answered, okay? After you have 10 quotes, we go further and we have 5 suppliers where we get a detailed quote from. So after the simple quote, some fall out. Then you go back and say, okay, for those 10, let's see who can do my actual logo, who can still, provide the quantity that I want if I customize the product. Go a little bit further. And if you find out, okay, these are the suppliers that could actually deliver what I want to, or they actually say that they could deliver what I want to, the next thing that you need to know is how's the quality, right? To choose your supplier, you need 2 things. You need to have the product quality and you need to have the numbers, the quotation. That's all you need to have your supplier, right? Because you only do the whole customization thing with your logo and with packaging with only one supplier. Let me tell you from experience that it is madness to do this at this stage here, to say, hey, we have 5 suppliers. Let me see which of these 5 suppliers can do the quality that I want and order all of those samples with logo. You don't want to do that because first of all, it's going to get really, really expensive here if you reach out and say, hey, or 10 suppliers or 5 suppliers say, hey, each of you individually, can you please make me the product with my logo and with these and these changes? First of all, you're going to constantly go back and forth. It's going to take you weeks to communicate that with this many suppliers. You want to do it one at a time. So if you have 5 suppliers that you ask for samples, I can guarantee you the samples that you get are not going to be satisfying. The logo is going to be upside down. The color is going to be wrong. The packaging isn't the way you want it. And that's normal. And that's just the way we have to go through when we source products in China. But you only want to go through that with one supplier at a time. You don't want to do that with 5 suppliers. You only want to do that with this one supplier, okay? So you get samples to choose the quality, and then you make your choice for one supplier, okay? That's all you want. You only want to choose one single supplier to go forward with. That's all you want, because if you have that one supplier, now you can go into customization, right? So now you saw, okay, I have all of those 5 samples, I have the quotes, what is the one, who's the supplier that I feel best about, that can deliver the quality that I want, and that has the prices that I'm good with, right? With that one supplier, and I can't stress that enough, you go forward with, okay? Most of the people make the mistakes that they go through all of that with these 10 quotes here, or with 5 suppliers at the time, and then they're totally frustrated and say, well, this whole sourcing in China thing doesn't work, right? It works if you follow the right steps in the right order, all right? So what happens now after you chose your supplier? After you chose your supplier, now you have the one, now you want to go into customization. Now you want to go into customization. What that means is you want to have your logo perhaps on your product. You want to have packaging. And for packaging, if you do it the first time, I recommend you don't do any logo, don't do any packaging. Just throw it up on the marketplace, see what it does. It can always be improved when it has these things, but it can never be a product that doesn't work without these things will not work with them. Okay, so save yourself some time here. Don't do that. If you insist of doing that, if you say, hey, this is what makes me special in the marketplace, go for it. If you do packaging, only do packaging the first time that the supplier already has. Say, hey, supplier, what's your standard packaging? When you order the samples, you get the packaging as well. Say, okay, this is the packaging that the supplier has. Now supplier, change it to my design, right? So you hire someone who designs it for you and you send it to the supplier, okay? That's what you want to do with packaging in the beginning. You don't want to go and have a second supplier that does your packaging. If you have, if you want to have very special packaging, you have to go through this whole process again. You have to go through all of those steps again for a second supplier that does your packaging. Okay. And you don't want to do that, especially when you're just starting. Your product isn't even proven yet, right? In the customization process, you're going to need a couple of samples. And that can be the most annoying part of sourcing in China and importing a product from China is when you get these samples is that it's not going to be right from the get-go, right? So you ask your supplier, say, hey, I want to have my product in red and I want to have my logo on. And then the supplier is going to send you a sample, but instead of red, it's pink and the logo is on the wrong spot, right? And then you go back to them and say, hey, supplier, the color wasn't right. This is the color code. Clarify that. And the logo wasn't on the right spot. It has to be here. So the supplier does that. 2 weeks later, you receive the next sample. Now the logo is upside down. You say, hey, supplier, now please do the logo right. The supplier does it, sends it back to you. The logo is right, but now all of a sudden the sample isn't red anymore. Now it's green. So you go back again to the supplier, and people always chuckle about that until they experience it. And they say, come on, Niels, no way. Like, I know how to communicate it. I can just, I'll make it clear. I promise you, you will run into these issues. 100% guaranteed. We did not have in a thousand products, there's probably 950 products where we run into these issues. There's only a handful of products where this works out perfectly from the first time. Usually this is not the case. So this is another reason why I say, hey, do all of the customization later, because it's eating up all of those time that you could already have spent on marketing, creating your listing, creating a customer base and all of those things that are necessary to succeed in e-commerce. But that's a lesson for another day. So let's say you do want the customization. We go through the process. You have the customized product. What you are aiming for is something that we call the golden sample. Okay. So what's the golden sample? The golden sample basically is the one sample that is perfect. Okay. That's the sample that has all of your changes, that looks 100% the way you want it, right? Because what people make another mistake here is the sample looks almost the way they want it. And I say, okay, when you make the order, just change the color and then the rest is okay. Don't do that. Get the final thing. You have to get the final sample that looks perfect, that looks 100% the way that the rest of your order should look like. When you place a bulk order, Each individual item has to look like your golden sample. If that does not happen, you have a problem, because this is going to be your reference sample. When something goes wrong, this is what you reference to. Say, hey, this is the sample that you made. Here are detailed pictures of it. Now in the bulk order, it looks different, and then you have and then you can solve the problem, right? If you don't have that, then you have a problem. Now, after confirmation you say, okay, now we have the golden sample. Now you can start producing. You're going to make an order agreement. And that order agreement, that doesn't have to be, a written out contract or something. You just have to, get agreement on each individual points that are important to your product. So you send them an email and you highlight all of those images from your golden sample. All of the things that are important, you have to list them. Make it simple, make it clear, and get a confirmation for all of those points. Okay, just put out an email template and put all of those details of the product. Color has to be this, 2 lines space. The size has to be this, 2 lines space, and ask them to put an acknowledge or agree or something as a response to your email in that email. So they should respond to you with the same email that you sent them and just answer each of those points and say okay or understand or agree, just so that that they know what they have to produce, right? Just so that there's no more misunderstanding, because now we're starting to pay the supplier. Okay, now we're going to go and we're going to submit a down payment, and that usually is a 30% down payment. If the supplier has the products in stock, usually that's not necessary. But if the factory has to produce it, there's a 30% down payment. You never want to do it without a down payment. You always want to keep the majority of the money so that you have leverage and that you have the power later to decide and say, hey, something went wrong with the order. Now let's go back. The down payment, you can submit that. My preferred method in the very first time I make contact is Alibaba. Though I don't like to source on Alibaba, and I always prefer to work through all of this process with a sourcing agent, I always like to prefer to pay through Alibaba, just because you have the insurance, you have the trade insurance. So if anything goes wrong, the supplier doesn't get their money, right? They only get their money if the confirmation is there, hey, everything went well. So you want to be insured on that, and don't do a bank transfer on the first order. So you put your money down, and then the manufacturer, they start to produce. Okay, they have the production going. Production. That happens when the German guy tries to spell English. Doesn't always work out. So they go through the production. During the production time, you can check in with them sometimes and say, hey, how is it going? How's the process? And just have them, communicate with you at the times. After the production is done, they're going to send you a message. They say, hey, your order is done. We can ship it. Please send us the money, right? What you want to do is a QC, is a quality control. Okay. Therefore, you want to hire a third party. The problem is now, especially if you send the products directly to Amazon, you want to have a third party quality control at this point. The factory will tell you, hey, we do a quality control. Doesn't matter. You need to have a third party that comes in, looks at all of your pictures from your golden sample, knows all the agreement that you did with the manufacturer, goes into the factory and controls your quality. You need to have someone check the quality of your items before you pay the net payment. I cannot stress that enough. You have to have someone who looks at the quality, because if they see, hey, you wanted red ones, right? They're all pink. Then now you're at the point where they can reproduce. Now you're at the point where the parts that were broken, where the packaging is damaged, where things happen, they can throw them out and then go back in and say, hey, now reproduce those items, or we deduct it from the net payment. If you don't have this quality control, you have no power over that. And when the products land on Amazon, you will be crushed from bad reviews, because people will get it and say, hey, I wanted a red one, this is pink, and you will not get your inventory out of Amazon easily. You will lose all of the money on that. You have to completely buy new stock, and you start from zero, and you just wasted half year. Invest this $200, $300 in that quality control. Don't play around with it, just do it. Okay. After you have the quality control, we go for shipping. And most of the time I just go with the forwarder that the supplier has, right? Because that's what they use them all the time. You know, you can always go with like the big guys with FedEx and UPS and whatever. But usually I just go with them. I just make sure, you know, on the first order to have it as simple as possible. I just make sure that the shipping is, you know, ensured and the shipping is quoted from door to door. I don't want to pay for shipping and then later I have to pay, you know, for all of the other things, the unloading. I have to pick it up from the port myself and all of this crap. You want to have the shipping quote door to door, and you want to be ensured that this happens, that the products are going to be picked up at the factory and delivered directly to the Amazon warehouse. You don't want to deal with any of this in between. You don't want to deal with any hidden costs. You don't want to deal with any of that stuff. We're going to go in shipping into other videos, but that's basically the whole process. Let me know in the comments, what are your questions to that? What point wasn't clear and what should we talk more about on this channel? My name is Niels Olderup. I'm extremely happy that you watched the video until here. Thank you for that. Thank you for your time. I hope you got something out of it. And if anytime you need, you want to have guidance through this process, of how to find your supplier, for example, there's a training below. If you say, well, that's a cool process, I really don't want to do it. Niels, can you do it for me? Yes, we can. Just head over in the description. There's an email address. Just send me an email. We jump on a quick call and I tell you all about how we could help you through this process. Cool. That's it from me today. I'll catch you tomorrow. And thank you again for watching this video.